band of sheep moved over from the sheep range into the desert range, and I shot. It was like a small ram.
How's a 13-year-old find sheep? I mean, we
knew nothing.
Really?
No. I mean, we just hiked and glassed and hiked and glassed.
It'd be hard to appreciate it too. Being 13, you obviously be jacked, but you really don't know, in a sense, to soak it up, and you never probably have it again. And,
oh no, I knew. I'd been on like 5 sheep hunts before then.
Man.
Yeah.
By the time you were 13?
Yeah.
With who? Your family?
Yeah.
Dad? Did your dad hunt?
Yeah.
Does he still hunt?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You got brothers?
Yep. 2.
Mm-hmm. Huh. So we're hot?
Always.
All right.
Is this good there? You
can sit back. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
It's these are kind of weird couches.
Yeah.
This is one of those things like last year we did podcasts in the expo, and we had people out front, like right in front of this big door, and they were like calling geese, practicing for the competition and stuff. So it was like all day. Yeah. It was Cody getting up and going out in the front door, and those guys were pissed because they were like, "Where am I supposed to practice?" And we were like,
"Practice in your truck. Practice outside." Like
anywhere
but here.
Every podcast you go back and listen to those, it's just geese and ducks in the background, guys bugling out, which is kind of nice. Adds some ambiance to it, right? But yeah, this year we decided we'll just do this little Airbnb across the street, and for the most part, it worked out pretty good. Other than the couch is super deep.
Yeah.
We had somebody on yesterday, short guy. He was like all the way back.
Charles.
Yeah, Charles, all the way back. My apologies.
I did feel bad for him. Looked like a little hobbit.
We have this guy that works for us, Adam, and he's a short guy. That was my first thought when I walked in here. I was like, that guy would be like all the way to the back, and his feet would be like right off the edge. But thanks for popping by and making time for us.
Yeah, of course, man.
I think we hit up Nico. Is that your
Nico? Yeah.
Yeah, partner work with you for you?
Yeah, he works for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, we hit him up and he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll make it work." So.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey, Trail told me earlier you have a booth here. I was like, "Huh."
Yeah.
I was blown away. Did not.
Got to check it out, man.
Stop over.
Is this first year you had a booth here?
Yeah. Yep. We did one at Wild Sheep just to figure it out, which is good because we'd be so lost.
Yeah.
Here.
How was traffic yesterday? Looked pretty up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking.
And here we are talking again.
You're looking forward to today, then?
What?
You're looking forward to today, then?
Oh,
a full day?
Dude, I feel like hungover and I have had 0 alcohol. You're just like.
Did you go out last night?
No.
These guys have been going hard in the paint, both of them. First night, I think, what did you guys get back? 1:30?
Where do you go?
Gracie's, and then what's the place next to here? Yeah, the Lake Effect.
Yeah.
I'd been asleep for like 5 hours by the time they got home, and then, got up and got going. And then last night you got home, what, midnight?
Yeah, it was a little earlier last night.
Yeah, man, I can't do both. Brady's a champ at that. Somehow he gets up.
I'm a night owl, so I'm normally used to staying up super late, and then the morning I've struggled with a little bit. But when you wake up and you got Dad Trail over here making the bacon and stuff, I'm like, dang, Trail, like I want to come and hang out with you.
Yeah, he's
your
like,
kids are spoiled if you can make them breakfast every day like this.
My day-to-day life, I've never really put much thought into, because I've just done it forever. My oldest is 18, and but when I'm around, guys like you, I'm like, I'm old, man. Like I'm legit full on dad mode. But
that was great. Waking up to the crackling of bacon this morning. And then the Trail made all the alarms go off for a while. We couldn't figure out the smoke detector. We had to open all the doors and windows, and so tried to burn the place down.
A little smoky. Did you have a good year this year? Look like?
Oh yeah, I had a great year. It was awesome. I mean, I don't know. It was one of those years that, like, on paper, I had the best season I would probably will ever have in my life on paper. Like the best like just good tags, and I struggled this year in a lot of ways. Like, and even though I had like a good season, I'd say it was just like a lot harder than a lot of seasons, particularly for mule deer. I don't know. It was just
tough year.
Yeah, tough year for mule deer.
I think mule deer are just tough anyway right now across everywhere. Seems like. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like so like I've had years like that too, where it feels like I've hung the moon as far as like opportunities and tags.
Yep.
And it feels like years like that I've struggled.
Oh yeah. Like I mean, well, I had like a limited draw sheep tag in the Chugach in Alaska. Great area. hunted my ass off, like very, very. No, I mean, I'm just not gonna go easy, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you have a sheep
you're
tag.
just
You're
like,
gonna
it's
go
a
hunt
sheep
your
tag.
ass,
I'm gonna
yeah.
give it. Yeah, I just like about near gave it everything you got and could not turn up a legal ram. But we saw like just giants too, which were just not legal. Like, because that area has good genetics. So it was like big bases. Probably saw one that was, I would say, close to Boone and Crockett and not legal.
Just age class?
Yeah, too young.
So.
And not full curl.
Really? Not full curl?
No, but like 39 inches.
Is this because he's broomed off or?
No, because it was broomed, I'd have hammered him. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Huh.
Yep.
And then you drew a desert tag.
Yep, I drew a desert tag.
And this is the first time I've seen you since we went scouting this summer. And that was hot.
It was very hot.
Brutal day of scouting.
Did you guys go out for a day together?
Yeah.
Yep.
My body was like almost bonking. I was like, I just needed way more water and salt. And
I think you're on some medication too. That
oh
you're
yeah, that's,
supposed to
I
not
got back
be in
from
the
spring
sun.
bear hunting and I was on like the tick medication.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I had a buddy that was on that same medication, and we were out sheep hunting as well. And the sun just he looked.
That's it. Yeah,
he looked exactly like you did, and I was like, I've seen this once before.
Yeah. Now that you remind me, it did say on there, prolonged exposure to sunlight not advised. I literally said that on the pill box, and then I go out with Remi, and it's just desert everywhere and hot and sunny.
Yeah. And my plan was, I was like, we're going to go set this trail camera and we're going to do it like mid-morning or like early morning when it's cool. And then it was like, 10 a.m. And I'm like, let's go do a 7 mile hike.
Yeah, let's just go as far as we can at 100-degree temperatures.
It was so hot.
Brady bonked. I love that.
Yeah.
Those pills were nasty. Like I was getting headaches, and then the sun. I totally forgot about the pill.
Yeah, I was
thing.
like, you
I'm
did
glad
not look
reminded
good.
me.
I was like, is he going to die?
It was bad. I just wanted to sit in my truck and just like not move.
Remi's like, you're supposed to be here helping. I'm not supposed to have to pack you out on a backpack on the way out. How many days scouting did you put into that?
Not as many as I would have liked. It was very hard to scout though, because I didn't have a boat when I was scouting, and it was like in the heat. I think all the sheep were toward the lake.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to have to figure it out when I get down there, you know?
Do you give us a recap? You did a hunt film for it, right? Launched
Yep.
as part of the Proving Grounds with Matthews.
Yeah. So went down. I mean, this kind of sums up my season of like,
This is why I ask, because I know where this is going. This is a leading question.
When stuff like just shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
It's like my buddy we just always talk about like trying to avoid Murphy. You know, it's like whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And I'm very successful hunting, but like a lot of shit often goes wrong before that happens or whatever. And I try to mitigate that as much as possible. But day one, we like are hiking in from the high. So it starts off, it's like one little, I mean, because some of the stuff in the video, you don't know the whole backstory.
Yeah. Like
why that actually happened. Because I'm not going to I guess we could have made like a 6-hour film and explained everything, but people would probably tune out. But like, okay, so one of my guys, Chris, was driving down from Montana to film, and his truck had broken down the week before. So he takes his truck into the shop, and it's not going to be ready to drive down. So I have an old Chevy Avalanche, and I'm like, dude, just take the Avalanche down. So he's like, okay, will it make it? And I'm like, it should.
it might.
Should.
Right? But I'm like, it's going to make it further than your vehicle. Hindsight, probably should have just rented a car. But he had to tow a boat down. So we got to borrow this jet boat, which is like a super high-performance jet boat, because my dad had a boat, and he was going to meet us. But it was like, we're thinking, oh, if we're filming from a boat, you can't like, it'd be better to film a boat from a boat, right? Or even split up or whatever. We didn't know. Maybe we'll be on one side, whatever. So there's like water access on one part of the unit, one road, and it's essentially like no roads, the entire thing. So it's a very perfect. I like that. Like there's a lot of roadless area. So he's driving down like the day before, breaks down in St. George, Utah. It's like, dude, I'm broken down. And it was like Saturday night.
You should have called, like man. I live right there.
Dude, well, we were like trying to rack our brain, like who lives in St. So anyways, he gets a hold of someone who had a friend that had a mechanic shop, and the guy like ripped over, towed him, and because he needed someone that could tow a truck and a boat too, and towed him in, fixed it. And so he ended up getting back on the road that night, and opening morning was the next morning. So we were already down there scouting. And so he's like, calls me, and the boat needs, what is it, 90 or higher octane fuel. Like you can't put regular fuel in it, right? Because
basically race fuel.
It needs race fuel, yeah. So you need jet fuel. So
It's a jet boat.
It's a jet boat. You need jet fuel. Yeah, right.
FTJ.
Yeah, exactly. So he comes in, and I'm like, it's like probably, I don't even know, 10 or 11 p.m. And he's like, he's driving, and that stretch to where he was going, there is nothing. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he goes through one town and they don't have that fuel. So he's
Yeah,
like, what should,
Logan
when he, I don't know what his philosophy was, but he's like towing the boat with no fuel in it. It's empty.
Yeah.
For the most part. And
Trying
so
to save on mileage, you know?
but I'm like,
all that weight
dude,
in the boat.
okay, all the weight. I'm like, okay, doing the math, it'd be 150 pounds. So like one small person sitting in there, you know, like
not really
I think a small person could ride in there. It's like, doesn't matter. Right. But it doesn't matter either way. So parks it. And I'm like, so he calls me and I'm like, he's like, where can I go? And he would have had to drive another hour and a half. And I'm like, dude, just get here. We aren't going to use the boat tomorrow. Anyways, my dad's got a boat. So we get there. He gets in like, I don't know, 3 a.m. We're getting up at 4 kind of deal, you know, get up, we go, we hike, we decide to do our hike in, and we hike, and we end up hiking like, I don't know, 10 miles or something to the lake. So we're like, okay, and it's evening time. We wanted to hunt around this area. So I call my brother and I'm like, hey, can you guys just pick us up at the lake in Dad's boat so we don't have to like hike 10 miles back in the dark, because it makes no sense to hike 10 miles in the dark. We're already here. We can get picked up. So they're like, yep, sweet. They go to get me in his boat. His boat had broken down, my dad's boat. So they're like, okay, my brother's like, audible, just grab the jet boat. There's a jet boat here. This sounds great.
Is he on the lake when it breaks down, or is he like?
No, I think he like couldn't get it started for like.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so they were like backing in, something like.
I'm like, that could have that could have been a whole other.
No, because I don't think you're gonna like break down on that one.
No.
So he gets the jet boat. He's driving. He's never driven a jet boat. There's fuel in it, so he's like going. Those things burn some fuel when you put the hammer down. And he was like, let's see what this performance baby can do. And he gets to us and he's like, I went through some fuel. He's like, picks me up. He's like, we aren't going to make it back. Because we thought it was like, somehow, I don't know. We thought it was like 3 miles. It was like 30 miles, 20 or 23 miles. So, yeah. So we ended up parking the boat and then hiking like
all the way back in the dark.
Yeah. Which was like another, I don't know, 10. So we did like a 20-mile day no matter what.
That was opening day.
Opening day. And then by the time we hiked back, you know, it was late, early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we had to go back and fuel the boat up in the morning. So we brought cans back down the next day. And then so that kind of ate up some of that.
You see some sheep that day?
That day we did. We found a good ram because we decided to hunt off the lake. Found a big ram, hunted that ram, lost him. Got in on him. It was kind of like we kind of bumped the ram, surprised him. So I was like, all right, that ram kind of like that whole event led us to a good spot. Then we started chasing that ram. Next day we went back in, found that ram again, hunted that ram. And then, you know, I've actually talked about this on my podcast. So, it doesn't matter. I don't mind like talking shit about myself. But there's one thing that I've like, you know, when you say something and you like, yeah. I've had a friend that was telling me a story and he like accidentally shot the wrong ram, and he knows sheep pretty well. And I was like, how could you do that? Like, I just cannot see that ever happen. Like, I was like, there's no way I would ever shoot the wrong ram.
Have you ever shot the wrong buck, the wrong bull, anything like that ever?
No.
You never done that?
It stings. I've shot the wrong buck
yeah, I've
before.
done it.
I never have. Well, I mean, there was one time where I intentionally shot a different one, and then as soon as that one fell, like the bigger buck came out, but I thought that he had escaped. So like it wasn't, I knew which one I was shooting at, but that's the only thing. So, and I've guided people that have shot the wrong one. I actually had a guy guiding, it was like a nice 6-point bull, like for a general area, great bull. And he shot a cow.
No.
And
ouch.
luckily it was you used to be able to shoot a brow tine bull or a cow, but it was on a quota. The quota had been met, but there's a 24-hour grace period, and he killed it within the 24-hour grace period.
Or that would have been that would have been a double snare.
Oh yeah, that would have sucked.
Yeah, you shot a cow, and now here's a citation.
Yeah,
that one would have stung.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's in my head, and I don't know why. And I was actually, before the hunt, thinking about that. I'm like, I gotta make sure I don't shoot the wrong ram. Like, I don't know.
I feel like that would be a lot easier when it comes to sheep. And I mean, you definitely don't want to shoot the wrong sheep because you wait so long for those opportunities. But I mean, I've never hunted sheep, so I feel like it'd be a lot easier. I don't look a lot of them, you know what I mean? So the difference between a big one and, you know, a good one to me would be apparent. Yeah, it would be pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is pretty apparent. But there's a thing that happens with sheep where you get these mini heads where they're just like, their bodies are tiny. They're very proportional.
Right.
And I mean, the score on a sheep is all about the base.
Yep.
Right. So
all about that base.
All about that base. And there's certain units that have like some good rams, but there's certain units that have like a genetic disposition for extra small bases.
Right.
So with that knowledge, I spot that we end up like the sheep are just constantly moving up and down. It's like really rough, broken country. So we were constantly getting like close, but not close enough. Rams around the corner, and there was 2 good rams that I would have shot, like the one that we've been chasing, and then another one was coming up from the bottom that was like equally as good.
Are they bachelored up that time of year? Like
no. They were pushing ewes, and then they were just doing all kinds of weird stuff, pushing ewes, getting crazy,
just
then
being sheep.
Loners, then running around, moving around. Yeah, they were just doing sheep stuff. And so go around the corner, and we're just about to where that ram was, and then out from underneath our feet blows out like this giant group of sheep, bunch of ewes, bunch of rams, whatever, and it's 81 yards. And I'm like, immediately just go to the ranged ram, because like with my naked eye, I go, there's a big ram. Mm-hmm. He's standing next to 2 other rams. He dwarfs the 2 other rams. He's got the shape of the big ram. Mm-hmm. Like he's got everything is big ram.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could have killed a big ram a couple days ago, but it was like too much in the range, like bino, like the whole binos range, whatever. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to make that. Like hiking in, I told myself I'm not going to make that. Like if I have a split second, I'm going to be at full draw and send it. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to do that because it just kept being split second. So I was like, I never looked with had I just thrown up my binos, I would have immediately known like small base ram. Mm-hmm. Don't throw up my binos, just range finder, full draw, focusing on the shot, shoot the ram. And even when I look back at the video, I'm like, it looks like a good ram. Like it looks, nothing wrong with ram. It had abnormally tiny bases, but it was very proportional to its body. Like I walked up on it, was the smallest bodied desert I've ever seen.
Wow.
It was just a mini head. Everything about it was tiny, but proportional. So it like, and then it was standing next to 2 other rams that were like clearly smaller. Yeah, so it was like 20 inches bigger than the 2 rams around it, which was the exact same, had the same shape as that other big ram that was in that group. Mm-hmm. And that the big ram that ended up being in there ended up running out. Like, but he was like in the bottom of the canyon further down, so he never made it up with that group.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I shot a nice ram with my bow. Like I really wanted to get a desert with my bow, but also like it was the most fun hunt I'd ever been on, and it was a little bit of like major letdown because I just didn't really want that hunt to end, to be honest. Like that was like, actually I used to, most of my hunts, I used to just be able to hunt as long as I wanted. And that's like not necessarily the case anymore. In that hunt I had cleared the schedule. Like I had plenty of time. Like there was
so many days,
so
how do you feel looking back on that now? Do you feel slighted a little bit? Do you feel differently about that experience?
I mean, a little disappointed in myself, but I mean, you all make mistakes, but also it's like, you can call, there's not a lot of things. I don't really call things like a once in a lifetime opportunity, but they are, you never know though. Like maybe you just draw. I think if I drew like a silver state tag or something, I would probably go hunt there again because I just had so much fun.
Right.
And there's a lot of other good places, right? But there's just a lot of fun involved.
You've hunted all over and you've hunted a lot. You've killed a lot of animals. Like, sounds to me like, do you still get pretty excited? Like in that moment where you...
No. Well, yeah, I mean, I get excited, but it wasn't like...
It wasn't, you made
it wasn't like
a mistake you made due to like...
No, it wasn't like a buck fever kind of thing. No, because I mean, I was in a way, like I was putting a lot of emphasis on, because I generally, when I'm filming or something, like, you know, I shoot my bow a lot, but I generally try to shoot everything with my bow at 40 yards or less.
Right.
When I'm filming, especially. And so I'm like, the thing about the reason I took that shot is like, I felt confident with my shooting for sure. Mm-hmm. And I also know with sheep, I've never seen a sheep jump the string.
Yeah.
You know, or jump it enough to dodge an arrow.
Interesting.
So like they kind of stand there and take it. It's and so I'm like the combination of those two things, but I kind of like focused in on like, I went from there he is. And I want to say like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty like, I think if I was excited, like I get focused on that like shot.
Yeah.
You
get in the moment.
Yeah. I will like, not to like brag on myself, but like, I think like I'm a much better shot on game animals than even targets in the backyard. And that's just always been consistently true because I get like in this kill mindset and I'm so focused on that shot that like if I could shoot at targets like I shoot at animals, I'd probably go into tournament archery, but I just can't. Like it's just a weird thing. Like and that is very fortunate. I've had a lot of success because of that, right? Like, because I think that's in the crunch time, like the difference between success and not is that where that arrow goes. And so I kind of just have trained myself like I put so much emphasis on that shot that I am able to control the other stuff. Yeah. I'll get really excited after the shot, but during the shot, I really try to laser focus, you know, because it's just so freaking important.
I've only done this one time ever. I jumped a buck. He's like probably 185 inch, like mainframe 4-point. It was general season deer tag in Utah. I was muzzleloader hunting and I had probably 1.5 feet of snow. Like dude dumped just like perfect, you know, into September, like early snowstorm. Yeah. I jumped this buck. He was with 2 other bucks and I knew what the little group was, but I jumped them and they went up and over and into this next little ravine. So I just stayed on tracks. I popped up over and sat down, got my glass and pad, and I ended up picking up the group, right? So I'm like looking at him. I'm like, okay, big buck. And I think there was a 2-point and a 3-point. I'm like, okay, look the whole area over. I'm like, yep, that's what's there. I watched him kind of go into this little clump in bed. So I made a loop, got the wind, come down the backside. And I'm sneaking down through there and I'm like looking along. And I knew that he was the only 4-point, the only back fork buck, right? Yeah. In that group. So I'm sneaking in. Antlers, I range him. He's like 35 yards, right? And back fork. I'm like, there's only one buck that's a back fork. It's got back forks, right? So I'm just going to wait for him to stand up. And that was me. I got so focused in the moment. As soon as that buck, he wasn't even, you know how a deer stands up, right? Yeah. So you can kind of see him coming up. You can picture it. He comes up. I'm like, I let him have it and just pound him. And it's 6 other bucks blow out of there. Like there were already bucks bedded in that little patch. Like I'd never even picked up. That was the smallest buck other than a 2-point of that entire group. All the others were like 170s, couple like 180 class bucks. And like, I just had to watch him go up and over the ridge. And, I pounded this little back fork 3-point, just the ugliest buck in the world. And I was all alone. And I was just like, how did I do that? But I think you're right. I got same thing. It was just pure focus. I was just like, that's the buck. He's right there. I'm in the zone. I'm going to let him have it as soon as he stands up. So as soon as he starts.
And even like most of the time, if you actually pulled your binos up and then it runs away, and that was the way when you're like, man, why didn't I just do my rangefinder, draw back and shoot the thing? Yeah. Like you kind of did the right thing, but it just happened to be a different looking ram that totally duped you.
Yep. And with your naked eye too, it was like a distance that you just couldn't process. And you think like, I mean, my rangefinder's magnified, but I was not looking at I was focused. I was going like, I got to get a range and I got to get drawn. I still got to set a pin and draw back and like have time to make a good shot. You know, and I'm thinking I'm already going through my shot process. Like the range was just incidental to the shot process, right? Like it was hammer time, but
that was a cool film.
Yeah. And honestly, like I mean, it was the most. I could actually say that was the most fun hunt I've ever been on. I think, I think that was.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just like, but also I don't want to taint the memory of that hunt based off the outcome. Like, yeah, we all want the big ram, right? But damn, was that a fun hunt.
Yeah.
And the most depressing part was that it was over. I think for me, like it was just a bummer that it was over because I was having too much fun.
Yep.
It's like, it wouldn't have even mattered if I killed the big ram. I think I would have felt the same way.
Sure.
Because I put a lot of emphasis on, I just had been dreaming about shooting a desert with a bow for a very long time, and just now the dream's over. Really,
Yeah,
like
you've
accomplished it. Yeah, it's like weird. I think it wouldn't matter what ram I shot. I think that there would have been a little bit of sadness for the hunt being over. I know there would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like the progression. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and we were talking about making shots with a bow on animals. And if you shoot enough animals with a bow, you've got shots that you have complete control of the shot.
Yeah.
You've got the pin buried. The arrow hits right behind the pin. It breaks exactly like you want it to. And there's like this level of satisfaction with that you feel. And I've killed a bunch of animals where I just whacked the trigger and I wasn't controlled. I wasn't like composed in the moment, and I still killed the animal, but I feel differently about the two different experiences. It's like I feel more accomplished, more satisfied with the animal that I killed where I had my shit together.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's funny. And yeah, I think you, like as hunters, you kind of go through that progression. Like as a kid, you just want to get anything, right? You any success, like if you kill the animal, you did it. But now I look back on a whole hunt and I'm like, I feel certain senses of satisfaction about different aspects of the hunt, including even just the shot.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting how you have like that progression as a hunter, and there's all those little intricacies and details of the hunt that can kind of like leave you super satisfied or just like, I wish that would have went differently.
I will say, I think like out of any animal though, the one that gets in my head like during the shot, like I pretty try to get that control process, but big mule deer mess me up in the head.
That's where I
think
going.
For me, the hardest thing to hit in the world is a big mule deer buck. I don't know what it is, but like that's the one thing that I still get buck fevery
especially
on.
with
Like,
the bow, when you're
dude,
that close.
there's just something about stalking in on a mule deer and the like. I've been on a lot of awesome hunts and like big elk are cool, but like if I am stalking a big mule deer buck with my bow, adrenaline is that's the time. Like if I'm gonna mess up on something, it's gonna be a mule deer buck. And
me too.
It's just it doesn't matter. Like
so stealthy, you're sneaking in, like you're not making much of noise with like stalking in on an elk. But
do you think it's because you like that animal more, or you appreciate it, or do you think it's because of just that animal's senses, like their ability? This is like an uncanny knack that big mule deer have of evading hunters.
Yeah. I think that it's a lot of I think I like them so much because I just know, in my opinion, a big mule deer buck, especially with a bow, is the hardest thing in North America to kill. I mean, maybe like I've only been on one stone sheep hunt and I didn't even see a legal one. So that's kind of like another thing in my mind that makes me.
That's on the bucket list.
Yeah, but like I've hunted a lot of mule deer, and how many times you can't even find a good buck, and then when you do find one, it's like this is a very rare opportunity, and then how hard it is to sneak in on them, and then like all that stuff. And I think that adds to it. But also if I was just, I can remember one hunt where I'm just like walking a ridge and a big buck jumps out and stops within bow range, and I just lost my shit. Because you just was completely unexpected. So a lot of times it's that sneaking in and that anticipation, right? Like you just get in your head so much. Whereas I don't do that with anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I think before I put a stock on a big mule deer buck, I'm already 50% of the way talked to myself like this isn't going to work. Which is not an attitude that you need to have. But I don't feel that way with elk. I always feel like I'm going to kill the elk,
Yeah.
But a mule deer, especially a big buck, I'm just like, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to go try it. And I feel like I treat this stock differently because I've already kind of talked myself out of the likelihood of success,
Yeah. Or the one that gets me is like I'm being super patient. I got a buck in a position that's so killable, and in my head I'm already taking a field photo with him. And then you get halfway over there. You get halfway over there, and one little rock rolls out from under your foot, and then it just goes to it just goes to shit and you just like, do they like panic mode or something? I don't know.
Oh, it's the worst feeling ever.
It is the worst.
That is a very real thing.
Wind swirls.
Everybody I've talked to ever has, especially when you get within range, you're there, the buck's bedded. Everybody's already like, I'm taking field photos.
Yeah.
And it seems like more often than not, they still get away.
Yep. So bad. That's the worst. I think that's like no animal does that more than a mule deer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's why for me, it's just, that's why I love hunting them too. Cause like you get that excitement that I don't get with anything else particularly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So it's fun to talk to somebody that's hunted a lot of places like yourself and killed a lot of animals to know that like it's still a big mule deer buck that gets you going.
Yeah. So hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
They're hard to turn up too.
They are hard to turn up. That's what I mean. Like this year, it was just unfortunate because I was planning like last year. I'm like, okay, next year I'm just going to focus on good mule deer and I'm going to, and it was just a shit year for good mule deer for me. Yeah. I had, that's why I said on paper, I had the best, I had 2 great deer tags and never saw a mature buck. Something that I thought was what I was looking. And I think probably, I don't know if they were all dead. I don't think they were because I actually had seen some early season scouting, but they just were not in my unit when I was there. I put in, I don't know how many, I mean, I put in a lot. I mean, not a lot. I probably put in 30 days mule deer hunting and never turned up a mature buck this year.
It's a lot of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then not only that, but like even where we guide, like in an area that like, it just seemed like this year the deer didn't rut. It was like young deer controlling does.
Yeah.
I never saw mature bucks. And the thing was we knew that those deer were good deer there because they weren't dead because I'd seen them in August. So that's what I never seen a year like it. Like I don't know. I have some hypotheses, but it's not, it's just whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious is, like in regards to mule deer, how do you turn up a buck like that? Like, is it just time and effort? Is it looking at the right unit? I mean, how do you attack that? Like, if your goal is to try to kill, best buck of your life, let's say. Yeah. Like, what is it? Tag strategy first and foremost, and then scouting. And scouting, like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I mean, I have 2 philosophies. So I've killed deer in both ways. One is tag strategy, getting really good tags and knowing that like there's potential, like you have to have the potential for those deer, right? And it's age, genetics, and feed. Yeah. Now like tag strategy is one, but then on the flip side, there's a hunt that I do for mule deer every year and it has genetic potential. But it's like very low densities of deer. So, and because of that, you don't get the hunter pressure. So you can get the age. So it has genetic potential and you can get the age. But I do that hunt where I try to do that hunt nearly every year. And I might go 3 years without seeing a deer. Right. But on year 4 or 5, I shoot a deer that's better than anything I could shoot in a draw area.
Do you feel, we've talked about this, but do you feel like, so I feel like elk across the West, I feel like the quality, generally speaking, I feel like the quality of bull that you're going to hunt is a pretty good reflection of the number of points or how difficult that tag was to draw. And mule deer, I think that there's a correlation, but I don't think it's nearly as tight. I think a lot of big deer come from like easier opportunity type of areas to draw, more so than elk.
I don't know. I think it's the opposite.
Really?
I feel like, for me, it's like
shoot giant bulls on easy to draw units and 0 point stuff. Over the counter.
I got to figure that out.
I mean, my biggest elk have all been in areas that I'm looking for like 380 bulls or 280 bulls. You know what I mean?
All the good deer tags I've drawn have been shit hunts, and all the easy to draw ones, like I'm able to turn up a big buck and kill it.
The same, like me, exact same.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. We need to swap.
Yeah, maybe it's because we're working so much harder on an OTC tag.
Doing.
Yeah, maybe.
We're grinding it out day after day.
But see, like my philosophy, when I draw, I think that's the hard part too, is like I think some people draw like like say you draw a really good mule deer tag, and I think that there's this thing in good mule deer units. I don't know if you guys know this, but like I feel like if you have a tag that's very hard to get point wise, there's like a certain percentage of really good bucks that are like good bucks that are easy to find, like that you do not see in a normal unit, right?
Yep.
And because I've guided a long time in a unit like that, it's like, yeah, there's units where the deer seem like you might wait an entire lifetime to draw that tag, but those tags you could drive around and you could see 400 deer in the hunt, and you probably see 160 type bucks every day from the road, and you correlate that with like, oh, but there's no big bucks. But I found that like that next level of buck in those units doesn't do those things. So most people are like, oh, that's their hunt strategy in a way, because you can't do that anywhere else. And it's like, well, we're seeing the deer, we're this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. And yet those big bucks don't do what those 100 and in some units they do, I guess. But like I found that you almost have to approach it. It makes it actually a more difficult hunt. So when I get a good tag, I actually go in with the mindset of like, this is going to be really hard because of the way that it's kind of like structured like that, you know. And 90% of the people that get those tags, they just pop in there and kill the first like decent buck that they see. And that's why those big ones aren't there, because they get hammered at that certain class. Right. And so it's kind of actually hard to weed through decent deer to get to the really good deer. Yep. I don't know. It's like, it's weird because I found like there will be certain pockets in areas that I hunt a lot where you will go and you'll see 160 inch, 170 inch deer all the time. And in like this is like you're only going to draw it once in your life. Like sheep type, like 1% draws. Yeah. And you go in those areas and it's like, yeah, you see like these mediocre bucks all the time, but there's certain places where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is where we find that next level, those 190 type bucks, you know, that like.
Do you prefer one over the other? Because as you're talking, I hate that hunt.
I hate that hunt. Yeah, I absolutely hate that hunt.
That's my least favorite hunt. I would rather not see deer.
Yeah, I hate that hunt.
And struggle to find deer and then find a big deer than see
because you have to look over every deer, and it's just it's
so
weird.
Annoying.
It's annoying because when I hate this because it makes you think you don't know mule deer. Well, I mean, the deer tag I had this year, never been more frustrated in my life because it was a good tag. I didn't see a single that next level deer. I saw 1,000 deer, and they were all just real shitty small bucks.
Just deer. Just bucks.
I was the same unit you hunted, so
you probably don't want to say that because I've been pretty vocal about where I hunted. We can cut that part.
Okay, perfect.
If you don't want people to know, I hate that hunt.
No, I absolutely hate a hunt where deer can just do whatever they want and they don't have to follow like a certain layer of procedure where it's like they can be, and I hate hunts where deer can be anywhere. I just don't like that. I like where it's like they have to be certain places because it helps you narrow it down. When they can be anywhere and they are everywhere, like why is a deer? I hate places where deer sitting out in the sun in the middle of the open, in the middle of it's the dumbest thing. I'm like, why are you, but they get no pressure and they must have like no problem doing it. I absolutely hate that hunt. Yeah, because I don't know what to do. I'm like, I know nothing about mule deer.
Yeah,
I don't know if I thought that I was the only person that felt like that. But
I feel like a lot of small deer is frustrating because then you have to take out the digiscope. I got to zoom in, especially if it's long distance, and I'm wasting time trying to figure out if that's a big buck or not. And probably the big buck I should be looking for now, just bedded. But I'm like, oh, I think that's him over there, so I'm gonna pay attention to it. Weed through the small bucks, and it takes forever to do it.
I feel like this isn't like an AA meeting where I'm like everybody's sitting around and like and I'm going, I totally relate, man. I felt that. I
felt that.
I'm feeling like very therapeutic about this.
I thought it was just me. That's the thing about mule deer too, though. Is like you'll get a good tag or something, and you go, I know nothing about mule deer. I just like
they'll humble you quick.
I cannot. I feel like I study. Like I feel elk. You can always find elk. I just feel like elk, maybe I'm just like an elk magnet. Like elk hunting, I feel like is quite easy.
I literally felt like I was the best glasser in the world this year. Bull hunting because like, there is everywhere. I'm like, dude, there they are. There they are. In the timber even, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a freaking school bus walking around. Like,
and they're very consistent in the places that they like very consistent.
You crack the code, mule deer, guarantee it.
You're like, they can be anywhere in some aspect, or they like certain places, but then they just aren't in those places. So it makes it difficult.
Do you talk to a lot of? It's interesting you say that you feel, because I feel that way too. I feel like there's like a prescription for where elk are, right? And they're going to be, and it doesn't ever seem like I struggle to find elk. But I talk to a lot of people that are like, I can't find elk.
Yes.
Do you have that? People ask you how to find elk?
Yeah. A lot of people struggle finding elk. And I guess I get it. But I mean, I've been a professional elk guide since I was 18 years old.
Yeah, if you've never done it, you only know what you know, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love elk hunting. I love calling elk. That's like my thing. Yeah, I love calling
hate that.
elk.
I'm bad at it.
No, it's fun. I love tricking a bull. I think that's like my favorite part of elk hunting. I'm like a weird purist in the fact that I like to bugle in bulls. So if I'm hunting by myself and I just like didn't bugle a bull, I probably won't kill it.
Really?
Yeah,
if I'm like in the experience a little bit, like
I'm like if I'm like walking through the woods and I stumble upon a bull, or there's like a bull bedded and I got to go sneak in and stalk him during the middle of the rut, I probably won't kill it.
How big a bull does a bull got to be? If you spot that bull, he's in a perfect spot for a stalk. How big has he got to be where you're like, I'm gonna go in and kill him, versus like I'm gonna let him pass because I didn't call him in?
Be like 365.
That's that benchmark.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's certain areas where it's like that's the unit of like it's conducive to that, right? But I also choose my places based on like I like hunting thicker timber in September. That's just like my preferred style. But I just feel like it's too easy to sneak in on an elk. Just like I feel bad about it.
You feel bad sneaking on.
Brady's loving this. I think that's why I like hunting them, because I'm pretty successful at hunting them, and it's just because I think, just being completely objective, they're a lot easier to hunt.
They are for sure.
They absolutely are.
Like it's like spot and stock mule deer hunting with training wheels, sneaking in on an elk.
Yeah, that's why
people are going to be like, "This guy, what a dick."
I've joked since I've killed now 4 bulls in a row or something like that. And it's like, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I'm not a very good elk hunter at all. But like I can find them. Yeah, I can find them. I can kill them.
And I think like people think like, oh, I'll call in an elk. Calling in an elk is a lot harder than stalking an elk, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. And that's why I like it, because it's just like a cool,
especially a big bull,
and it's very action, right? Because what other hunts do you get to do where you get to be like as noisy as possible? You get to run around. It's just like very, very high energy. I like that. Like I do love chasing bugling bulls. Yeah. And I mean, I'll throw in some cow calls here and there, but
what do you tell people that are having a hard time finding elk? Like, what do you tell them to look for?
Oh, I mean, I think just like feeding areas, glassing, feeding, yeah,
feeding, bedding, water,
feeding, bedding, water, grass.
I think it's interesting. So, like, I picked up. You said you like hunting thick areas.
During September, yeah.
During September, do you like that because you like that aspect of calling? Do you like it because you think that there's a better likelihood of a bigger bull in those types of areas?
Both. I like it for the aspect of calling because they're naturally more vocal in it. If elk can see a long ways, then they'll like bugle and then go look, and it's harder to get them to commit. I would say it's a lot easier in some ways to call in a bull in thicker stuff. It's a lot harder to get a shot. Right. So you're calling in a lot of elk, and that's what I like, the calling in. So even if I, like when I'm calling elk, maybe and I'm guiding, let's say I'm guiding or hunting with someone and I'm calling elk. Well, I brought this bull into 20 yards. I effectively called in this elk just because we didn't get a shot. There's most of the time you're calling an elk, I'll bring him into, I had some elk 10 feet away from a guy a couple of years ago. And it was like, we did that 3 or 4 times in a week. We tricked that bull. He had 0 shots. Like it just was that thick, but that's part of the strategy. But sometimes you get that window. So you keep doing it, but it's fun because it makes you feel like, I called in that elk. I tricked that elk. Yeah. Sometimes you'll do it and you don't even see the elk. I mean, but I like that. And then also I feel like it's hunting habitat that you can't hunt at other times of the year. Like because you don't have that
auditory cue, right?
Yeah.
Do you so if you're calling on your own, do you have strategies that you use on your own for calling elk versus hunting with a buddy that, kind of the traditional, your buddy hangs back and, bugles and cow calls and tries to drag that bull past you? Do you have anything that you do differently when you're on your own?
Yeah, I kind of try to use topography in a lot of ways. So I use my strategy of like keeping them fired up, but then using my final coaxing strategy where they're like just have gone over a ridge, where I try to use like a little bit of speed and proximity to bring that bull to where I need him to go. And that's worked really well.
So you're talking like hanging just off the cusp of a ridge to try to bring that bull.
If a bull's, you know how they'll be like on this side and they'll be like bugling. So I'll keep him interested and move in as close as possible. And that's where he holds up. And then the second that he starts to drift over, then I just haul it and get to that spot where, okay, now he could come up a bit, but he can't, you know, he could sit there and bugle and hear and see. And so I try to use that strategy. I also like turn away and call quite a bit, or I turn. A lot of times what I do too is I do like cow calls behind and bugles forward. And that tends to be like, oh, cows are back here, bulls this way.
Gotcha.
Like a direct challenge, but also enticing, like, oh, maybe I got to circle around or do something in that fashion.
It's always interesting to talk to somebody because I do the same thing, but I've never really thought about why I do it. You know?
Yeah.
It just kind of seems like that's the thing to do that made the most sense to me.
Yeah. And then another strategy too is like I play real aggressive and get real tight when I'm doing my calling by myself. So if I'm calling with someone else, I would probably call further back, but I'm willing to blow him out to get closer in a weird way. Like I get pretty aggressive to get really close. So in some ways I am stalking the elk, but they're bugling. Like I'm just using combination. Yeah, it's more fast stalking, but I'm trying to get in tight and then do my calling. Like I really like to invade their bubble when I'm by myself, because when you're calling with someone else, you want the person set up to be further ahead, and then they've kind of got this safety bubble, and then they go to that, and then that guy still has a shot and you're calling further back. But I like to get in within that bubble and then challenge him directly, so he kind of has less opportunity.
When you say bubble, how many yards you talking? It's probably situational.
70 yards.
70?
Yeah.
Oh, close.
But thick timbers, like 70 yards is essentially a mile away.
Right.
You know, like it could be, you're never going to, you probably can't even see 20 yards. So 70 yards can be pretty far in that thicker stuff. And it's a lot easier to get in.
Are you just basing this on like vocalization and then determining how close you are to them, or because you're not able to see them all?
Correct. Yeah. Vocalization.
And things aren't echoing around too much. You're like, oh, I'm setting up here, and actually it was like 500 yards away, and we're just in here calling. But like, it's probably just an experience thing to realize like what the sound is, to be like, oh, that sounds like he's actually pretty close. We should just set up now.
Yeah, it's hard to determine. Like if you haven't done it, it's really hard to know like how far is that bugle away? Is he 200 yards? Is he 70 yards? Is he a half mile? And if you haven't hunted enough, it's hard. Even myself, I'm like, I don't know, man.
In thick stuff, it is harder. There is one thing that I kind of notice is like when you get closer, sometimes it actually seems quieter. Have you noticed this? Because they're like, if you're directly across from it, where people get confused is like, it's a lot of topography as well. So you got to I gauge it off of the topography. So if I'm on a ridge, like, and there's kind of like another finger ridge 150 yards over, and that bull sounds blasting, I know that he's essentially my level with more amplification going my direction. When that bull drops down in that canyon and is on my side, I lose that amplification across the canyon. So it's matted by timber, like there's actually more timber between me and him instead of more air. So I gauge it off of like the topography and then also the vegetation. But there's those times where bulls also, when they get close, they might be like pissed, but they'll switch their call up a little bit to some more like, and I hear that, I'm like, okay.
This is the difference between somebody who knows it and has thought about it and then has the ability to put it into word versus me, who knows it and then is just mindless and just goes out and does it. But I have a hard time explaining it to somebody. So like there's a lot of gold in what you just said.
There's also like this thing when you're real close to a bull, I call it like I don't even know, like the bull's lisp at the end. Like you can hear a bugle and there's certain tones that you can't hear from far away because it gets lost in the bugle. But when you're close, there's like this at the end of the bugle, this like it's like weird, like this weird like sound that, like not even just like you can hear that like exhale of air. It's a weird, like you can hear the push of air. You can never hear the push of air when they're further away, but when they come in, you hear that like the actual push of air at either the beginning or the end of the bugle. And when you do that, you know you're within 60 yards. I'd say
game time.
Game time. Yeah.
I love it when they get glunking.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you can hear
that's the
that.
best.
I killed a bull in Wyoming a number of years ago, and that bull was bugling, and I knew he was close, but when he started glunking, and I could hear those glunks like coming up the hill as he was like walking up the hill, and he kind of turned in and shot him at like 17 yards. But I love that glunk, man. When I hear that, I'm like, oh man, we're in it.
Yeah, that's the best. It's just like their stomach hitting, like just the sound of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever shot a bull off a wallow?
I have not.
Tro's the king of that. Wallow sitters unite.
It's funny because
that's why I asked.
I put up trail cameras on wallows, and I have this grand vision of killing a bull on a wallow. I really want to do it. I want to do it bad. It's funny because I haven't,
Right. Yeah.
And I have cameras on wallows, and I have sat them. I'm just not consistent, but I really want to kill an elk. I at least want to try killing one elk out of a tree stand. I think it would be, because like just to observe them in a wallow is fun. And then like be right there. I don't know. Maybe just, I kind of always thought of it. I kind of had like this, I just can see it playing out correctly in my head. I actually have a few tree stands set up on wallows, but I just never go sit them. I just need to do it. I just need to commit.
Does he need to be bugling at the same time?
No, I think on that, in that action,
that
I just am not. I think it's like, because that's it's the hardest thing for me to do. So I think that I kind of don't do it, but I think it's cool still.
To me, it'd be hard to sit a wallow and just be like, all right, I just gotta wait for it to happen. I feel like I'm just like whitetail hunting.
Right. Yeah.
You should be out there running around trying to make things happen, and you're just.
That's why I never have done it, because I'm always sitting there being like, I should be doing something else. There's nothing here.
Yeah. I've done it when it made sense. Like,
when does it make sense?
It makes sense to me anyway, at least. Like if you're in an area and it feels relatively high pressure and the elk aren't being that vocal, but the elk are there. And I found a water source, and I'm like, yeah, this is the best water source. They're definitely wallowing. They're not real vocal. I know there's a lot of pressure in the area. I think that makes sense, and I'll set a wallow, and they'll come in and we'll kill them.
So that and like early
season, yeah, like that first week of September, maybe the first 10 days. I feel like if they're not really, rutting, but I think it's a great opportunity to like target a big bull early if you can pin him down on a wallow and before they really start to like gather cows and move on.
But to me, I get so nervous about the wind when I've done it before. Like I get so concerned, like, maybe the elk are right behind me. Now they're going to just totally wind it, and I'm just sitting here pointless the whole entire evening.
Again, I think, I don't know, and you can maybe tell me, but I think elk they're more predictable as far as like where they're coming from, and you can kind of play the wind depending on the time of day, pick your spot. And I've shot a lot of elk off of wallows, and I've never felt like I had to be like so walled in, with like a blind or anything. I feel like as long as I'm real minimal with my movement, I feel like I can get away with quite a bit, because elk are a big animal. They move around a lot.
Yeah, they see a lot of movement in those herds.
Yeah, they see a lot of movement. They hear a lot of sounds. I feel like I can get away with a lot more than I could with like a mule deer or something.
I've used the wallow tactic guiding a lot.
Yeah.
So I've killed a lot through proxy. You
Right.
know what I mean? I just haven't been the one that sent the arrow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like on those hot hunts, or you get a guy that's like, we hunted hard for 2 days, and he's like, I'm done. And I'm like, okay, let's go. They're like, why didn't we start on this wallow? Right. But
you didn't get the full experience.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Yeah,
we killed a lot of bulls that way. And I've even done like setups where I'll set a guy on a wall, and then I pull back and do some calling based off of the direction. So I'll like hear the cow sounds, because what'll happen is, especially early, I'll cow call near a wallow. So like I'll have a guy set up on a wallow, I'll pull back and cow call. And then what happens is like, if you get a lone bull and he knows that wallow's there, and you just expect him, like he's going to come up, the wind's good, he'll probably, before he goes to those cows, get in that wallow, bugle, thrash around. He'll put his perfume on, and then he'll go check the ladies.
Yeah.
So it's like a way to direct him to that wallow while we're just hanging out.
You've guided since you were forever.
Since
you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of new hunters, I would assume. Probably guys from the Midwest or the East have never really hunted elk.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? I've had a lot of people reach out to me recently that want to go hunting. They look at the hurdle. It's hard. There's a lot to learn. The way to get a tag. I've had a lot of people ask me, do you think going with a guide for a year or two is a good avenue for me to help, kind of learn the ropes? Do you get a lot of people like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think in some ways, like it's a good way to get your feet wet.
Right.
But I don't think that you learn based off like your experience is zero. And then you're like, but I think what they're doing is so advanced that you just can't even comprehend because you haven't gone through the steps. So then I've had guys that have hunted with me for like 4 or 5 years or even longer. And they're like, now we're going to go out on our own. And I'm like, I encourage it. I'm like, yeah, go do it. And they're like, it was like starting from zero, right? Because somebody else was doing all the stuff. Yeah, correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So in a way, like I think it's a good way to get out and go hunting and like maybe just, I think it's more like just breaking the ice in a way, right? Like, but I also think that like if you tried it yourself, you're probably going to be less successful, but learn more. I know that for a fact, actually.
So would you tell somebody that's like wanting to go on their first elk hunt, like just try it on your own, do all the research on your own and tackle it? Or do you think?
I don't know. It just depends on the experience that you want. Right? Because I think if you're like, hey, I really want to experience what it's like to have bulls being called in and like get into elk and do that whole thing, it's pretty good to go with somebody that knows how to do that because it's probably like higher odds that day one you're going to get in and have that kind of experience. And in another way too, I guess if you're by yourself and you can't find, I think the struggle is like finding elk first, right? Like a lot of people like, we didn't even see an elk. It's like, well, they don't even know what the calling aspect is because they didn't encounter any elk.
Yeah, it's hard.
So it just depends on the kind of experience you're looking for.
Yeah.
And to like where you're at in life, right? There's a lot of guys that, or maybe, they're like, they worked, they had their families, and now they're like 65 years old and they want to go on an elk hunt and they want to harvest an elk and have that experience.
Yeah.
You're okay. Well, in another 8 years, you'll probably get your elk. It's like,
yeah, that's the point I always give them is like, it depends on your objective. So if your objective is to kill an elk and that's going to be your one elk, you want to come out and do it, you're better off with a guide. But if you're wanting to learn to hunt elk and you want to come back year after year and, you want to do this on your own, then it's probably better to go on your own and learn the ropes and go into it realizing you probably won't be successful, but you're going to start putting the building blocks. You're going to build the foundation to then, be successful year after year after year as you do it, 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Even as like somebody that's, pretty much all my hunts do it yourself all over. I think that there's a couple, I don't know if you guys have this, but there's a couple hunts in my mind, like maybe 1 or 2 hunts that if I drew that tag, I think I would actually hire a guide because it's like, my objective on that one hunt might be different than other hunts.
What are they?
If I drew a break sheep tag, I think I would
go guided,
or at least talk to a lot of. I think on that I probably know enough people that know enough about it, and the area is different. But it's like on that, I would want to shoot an absolute giant ram, and I mean, and the amount of time, like I maybe wouldn't have the amount of time to do it, and I think I don't know, but maybe like a strip mule deer tag potentially, where it's like it's just all about time and scouting, and I know that it's like it's a once in probably 100 lifetimes opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to gain enough knowledge in that to make it worth once in 100 lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean,
in a weird way, but I also don't know. Like maybe it's just me, and I'd be like, I know that I could do it, and I would do okay with it.
Yeah.
So all the time possible.
Like, so then you're like there and you're like, dude, this guy, I don't know, like they might not hunt my style. And that's one thing. Like I just like to hunt a certain way. So they probably have their certain way and it wouldn't match with my certain way. So maybe in the end, I'd be like, what the hell am I doing? I don't know. I think about it a lot though. Cause I'm like, would I or wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys have anything like that?
Experience different going guided on that sense. But I think it's strip tag. Like you don't have enough time in the summer to scout that entire place. Like and try to do it properly.
Correct.
And then go back and hunt later. Like it's impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you got a bunch of buddies who have been there for years and years and years and have a good starting point.
Right. Correct.
Probably a decent starting point, but still.
And that's the other thing though. I am pretty good about finding people that know a lot about the areas and connecting with people and have a good like direction. And there are areas where I've gone into and,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I probably actually wouldn't, but I think about it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, knowing you what I know of you, I think ideally what you would want to do, like on a strip mule deer tag, is you would want that tag, but you would want the entire summer to just go scout it, gather all the intel and do it yourself.
Right. That would be ideal. But I just don't know if I would actually
have the time.
Right.
Right.
Or, yeah. I mean, back in the day, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I think for me, it would be those species like bighorn sheep, like mountain goat. I mean, I've only drawn one goat tag. I shot a ewe, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean,
right.
Not a ewe, a nanny.
A nanny.
Yeah, you obviously don't know what you do because you called it a ewe.
A nanny. Yeah, obviously. I don't even know the damn name of the thing, right?
It was
I don't know if it's
horns.
I don't know if it's a sheep or a goat.
Like,
as
that
it
was
turns
actually
out.
a sheep.
So I definitely need a guide for that one. Yeah, but it would be those types of species where I would need, somebody that's got a lot more years of looking at them to know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Right.
And hone in on where they're at. Because it'd be so fun to draw a tag like that. And it's like, I'm going to pull a camper up. I'm going to be here all summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, somehow you just quit your job because it's such a sick tag. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
I can see myself doing that. Badass
Yeah.
tag.
Right. Like
Giving up everything in life just to go do it. But like, or get some people with some intel. Then you got to hunt with them though.
Yeah.
And it's like,
right. And that's the hard part. I was like, I like hunting my way by myself because sometimes it's a weird thing. I don't necessarily like hunting with people, and that makes me maybe
I think we all
antisocial.
agree with that.
I'm way more successful by myself.
I had Ryan Lampers on my own podcast like here a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And before I hit record and we were kind of going, I was sitting there talking to him and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go because essentially you've got two people that are talking to each other that would probably rather not be talking to each other. Like we kind of have the same, ideas about hunting. We like to hunt alone and we're kind of reserved and a little bit awkward with, socially. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. This is like a perfect storm for two weird people to sit across from each other and try to have a conversation. So do you think you're a better hunter on your own?
100%. I know for a fact. Yeah. I've done it more. And like, it's different because when I'm guiding, in a weird way, I'm hunting with people, but I'm hunting alone. And I like that about it because it's like, I don't ever ask, I don't even care. It's me hunting alone and you're following me.
Right.
But when I'm like hunting with friends or something like that, I mean, I enjoy being out with my friends, but I don't necessarily know if I like hunting. I would just rather not have a tag than be hunting.
Right.
Like, it's weird in a way, but like I'd rather go on a hunt with my brother and him have a tag than us both have tags in some weird way, because it's just like then I'm just assisting in his hunt and helping his hunt. But when I'm hunting, I like to just not have to think or like worry about anything else. I just like to go and do, and I'm a lot more successful that way. I like hunting. Like I've got a group of friends that I hunt with, and we kind of like essentially base in the same area, and then we all go do our own thing.
Yeah.
And that's highly successful, right? Because it's just other people that, like, my brother's the same way. So like, I like hunting with my brothers that way. It was like, it's okay, cool. You can go over here. I can go over there. Like we can do our own thing. We can help pack stuff out. There's a couple hunts where it's really nice to like a fog neck elk was one where it's like, it was awesome to be together on that. But, it just depends on the person a little bit too. But, yeah, if I'm just like, if it's a tag that I really care about, probably just have support or whatever, maybe people glass in different spots, but the actual hunt portion, just my own zone. I don't know. Sounds very antisocial, but I mean, I did a show for a long time called Solo Hunter for a reason. Like, I like hunting alone. It's preferred style of hunting for me.
Too.
It's one of those things. It's like people ask you, "Do you like hunting alone?" If I'm speaking from a pure perspective of enjoyment, I don't necessarily like hunting alone. It's nice to have somebody to hang out with, shoot the shit, share stories, But if like we get down to brass tacks and I look back across the history of hunting, unequivocally the best animals I've ever killed, I've killed on my own. And I don't think it's random. You know what I mean? I think I'm a better hunter when I'm on my own, but is it as enjoyable? I mean, it's more enjoyable in the moment when I kill that animal that I really wanted to. But if you look at the bulk of the hunt, I'm like, there was a lot of real miserable days just hanging out by myself,
Yeah.
So, I mean, not miserable. I like that, but there's days where I'm like, man, it'd be good to have Brady or Neville or somebody to shoot the shit with for a minute. But
then like when you're hunting with someone else, you always got double the noise, double the scent.
Yeah,
double the opinions and ideas of
that's where
or someone convincing you maybe not to go there. Oh, it's so far away. Maybe let's not go.
That's where it's at.
And they're not trying to fully convince you, but you can tell they're not really wanting to. So then you convince yourself, yeah, there's nothing over there. We're not going to go.
Yeah.
And I don't like that part
of
it.
I'm like, I'm generally like, I like to be a nice person, right?
You're like me. I feel like we're the same person.
I'm like, even though I know what to do, I would ask someone's opinion.
Yep.
And I got to stop doing that. And then like when it gets down toward the last couple days, I just get like this F it mode. And I'm like, I don't care what you think kind of mode where I just like, I got to do what I got to do. And then I'm successful. And I'm like, okay. But it's still like, what do you think? And people, their reasoning could be like, out of like, I don't want to go over there, but they don't really say it. But it's like, I think we should wait.
You can tell.
And it's like, dude, and then it's a drag on me. And then the other thing that I hate is like, if I'm doing a stalk, I hate feeling rushed when someone's there with me. Yep. Like I do stupid things because I feel bad about the person baking in the sun watching. I just hate it. Like I'm like, there's times where I'm like sitting on a mule deer and I'm like, I'll throw a rock because I'm worried about the guy glassing across the canyon. Like I can't do that.
Yeah,
I just
same
hate
thing.
that.
With a camera guy, same thing.
I hate that. Yeah.
Me too. I feel like I'm always like, I don't mind having a camera guy, but there's definitely situations where I feel like, I'm checking in with them and it weighs on me.
Yeah.
It's downpouring rain out and they're just sitting over there just miserable. And like you're just trying to do something like that person's miserable. Now maybe we should just go back to camp. Right. Like, he looks destroyed inside. But
I'm like, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you doing all right?
Yeah. Like
a daddy in you, Trail.
But I don't like it.
No.
I feel the weight of it, you know 100%, what I mean? I would rather not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like, it's just nice when it's like you just go and then the other thing too is like there's times where things take a little bit longer for something, and I don't know, it's nice to be by yourself.
I'd wait there all day, but if I have somebody behind me, I'm like I don't know, I feel that weight of it.
Right.
How do you have anything else?
No.
I always check with Brady. I'm really bad with. I always jump over Brady. So
that's all good.
Anyway, he's used to it.
I just know you like to talk.
So now now I have to check in with him and be like, do you have anything else before I move on?
I don't right now, but I appreciate it.
I wanted to ask you, like, how do you attack? And this is maybe for kind of our users, people that are insiders and trying to get into Western hunting. Like, how do you attack applications across the West?
Yeah, I think like first is one of the. I mean, I look at my whole, the thing about applications is very personal to what you want and where you're at, right? So for me, I have a lot of points in a lot of places. I've been playing the tag draw game since I was probably 16 years old. Like when people were buying other stuff, I just started like applying in other states. But I grew up in Nevada, and when I first started hunting, they didn't have the youth tags. I was lucky to draw a tag my first year applying because my dad was like, had enough foresight to say like, I'm not going to hunt for 5 years. So when my son, because he knew that I was just all about it. I think when I was like 8 years old, he's like, this kid's going to want to hunt. And so
I have a problem.
So he just applied. And he ended up having points, and then we applied as a party. Otherwise, it was like I wouldn't have even been able to hunt big game for a long time. And so that happened, and then I got lucky, and they started like a youth tags midway through my growing up. So I was able to then obtain tags. But also, my thought was, I was like, this just isn't enough, right? So my grandpa lived in Montana, and we would apply there and get tags in Montana too. So we'd do that. And then I started thinking, like, when I would work and get some money, I was like, oh wait, what are other places that I could do this in? And I'd see like magazine articles of mostly like Utah is probably the state that I have the second. Montana and Utah I have like the most points in. I started applying in Utah.
I think it's the same thing.
Because I was like,
been doing similar magazines because I always wanted to go to Utah. So I have a pile of Utah points.
Utah was like similar to Nevada, right? It was like, okay, it's like they're touching, and where the big elk are touching, so I'll just go there, right?
And it's totally unattainable. Like, why did I build points in Utah? Because I'm probably never going to draw those.
Right. So for me, like, and then just kept multiplying. So I've got a lot of points in a lot of places, and I couldn't cash them in early, and because it was just like guiding in Montana, and a lot of the seasons are the same. So for me, I've got a lot of points in a lot of places. So sometimes my strategy is based on that, but I haven't really cashed them in. So I also have that, but then I'm also always looking for the places and the point where I don't have any points. or what I can obtain without using points. I'm kind of a weird. I haven't really drawn a lot of tags with any points.
But you could. It sounds like if you wanted to, right? You could start plucking.
Yeah. So now my game is like I'm dancing around trying to find ways that I can draw tags without using those points. Like where can I get a second choice? Yeah. Right. Like a weird.
You don't want to burn them.
A weird strategy. No, not really. I'm like, those will be for when I'm old and crusty and want to shoot like, you know what I mean? Like want to shoot a 200-inch buck from the truck kind of deal. Or
you're like that guy in Lord of the Rings. What is it? Gollum? Yeah, with the ring, my precious. Yeah, my points. Yeah,
and then also I kind of like now with kids, I think I'm hold that strategy of, man, maybe I could go in when my daughter's 12 years old, I'll have 35 points and we can go as a party and cash in and go on a good hunt together. Or even just maybe go on a sweet hunt where they can go along. I don't know, but it's just a weird strategy in my head. But I mean, I'm getting away from your question. I think the thing that I look for in a hunt is different than what other people might look for.
Right.
So like when I use filtering, I'm probably looking at I'm looking at, in a weird way, the dark side of filtering, the stuff that like other people are avoiding. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking for the stuff that, and I hope this strategy, it doesn't even matter because once you go on the hunt that I find, you're going to be like, this sucked, right? I look for this sucked hunt because I know one of the things that I hate is a hunt where you aren't hunting animals, they're acting like animals. Like in an area where there's a lot of animals, I could go find a unit where there's high success and a lot of animals and maybe better animals, but a lot of people. And so it's like you see animals, but you almost have to rush to them and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I look for the areas that have like low success and low densities and whatever, because I know that if I'm out there hunting and I haven't seen anything for 3 days and I actually am like, okay, I know the animals well enough that like I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just a hard hunt, and most people don't like that. I'm okay going a week without hardly seeing anything if I know that the things that I need are there. And people are like, how do you know? And he's like, like I've been in the game long enough to know like certain areas and things. And I kind of like the areas that people are like, the wolves have killed them. That's what I used to, when it was like before wolf seasons, I would go into the areas where everyone was talking the wolves have decimated the population. And I would have really good hunts. And I was like, some of the best hunts, because nobody was in there. Everyone's like, the wolves have killed them all. And I was like, I saw a lot of wolves, but I also found a few, like they aren't going to eat them all. And so that was my strategy before there was wolf seasons, was just going like all the place. If there was a news article about a place that was just getting hammered by wolves, I would just go hunt there the next year. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
A green flag for you, not red.
I was like, cool.
One of my favorite places of all time was exactly the same thing. When I was going up hiking on this trail, I met this guy who's coming down and he's like, "You're heading up there?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, no one goes up there anymore. The wolves are everywhere." And literally, it was my best mule deer spot I've ever had in my life. I saw more mature deer there than ever. No one was there.
Right.
Probably the same way with grizzly bears. If you can just get over the fear of hunting in and around
it was phenomenal. And there's just, like you said, animals being animals. Really
you
cool.
You said something. I was going back to hunts. I hate a hunt where I feel like I cannot outwork somebody, where it feels like the individual that's the closest to that animal when they see it, because it's so highly pressured that they're going to kill it. Like that is one of my least favorite hunts. I hate that hunt where I just feels I can't outwork anybody. It just is like happenstance on where that animal is and where the proximity of the closest hunter is.
I hate hunts where there's roads everywhere. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Even if there's like high populations of animals, because it's just, it makes you like, what do I do? Because you're like, driving around is quite successful and I hate that.
Yeah.
And then it's like everybody has that not like equal opportunity. I'm like,
it's just where they're at that day.
Yeah, right. You just like,
it feels random.
Yeah, I just hate that. And it's like, you can't get away from it. And okay, there's a million animals here, but there's a million hunters, there's a million roads, and I just don't like it. I just, not for me. But that's my personal thing. Like, I just like to get away from people. I like to have a hunt. I like to just do my own thing. And it's like, I'm a big loner, but it's fine. Like, you know, I like the hunts that other people don't like. And that's because I found a lot of success doing that. And that's also, you know, if I was going on multiple hunts in a year or something, it was like a way that I could just guarantee that I'd rather just be out hunting and get a tag. And because of it, I think it's made me a better hunter in some ways. some ways it's been frustrating too, but
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, I think it's just maybe a better hunter.
Knowing what you know of the Western landscapes and the way that tags are allocated in the draw systems, do you think that there's good opportunity still to go hunting? Like you've been buying points and getting points for a lot of years, but you haven't been using them. It doesn't sound like.
I mean, I really, outside of the state of Nevada where I'm a resident,
Yeah.
I don't really know if I've drawn. I haven't really drawn a good tag really ever. Like that's weird because you're like, I've been applying in a lot of places. You think that at some point I draw like a premier tag somewhere, and I just really haven't. I mean, that's like a.
But you're not staying home either.
No, I'm not staying home. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you look and I'm like, this guy's killed a lot of awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because it's just getting out and going hunting. And I think like I have certain hunts in my back pocket that I'm not going to talk about that I think will be opportunities for a long time. And they're great opportunities that people just maybe talk crap about now, and it's like, or don't even think about because there's so many other opportunities. It's like, cool, that's good for me. I like that. It's going to be a little tough hunt, but there's still opportunity to do it. And that's probably part of the reason I don't even cash in a lot of these points, because there's just good opportunities out there. I'm actually going to burn some points in some places because I'm missing good opportunities.
Yeah.
With the low, like,
because you feel like you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a couple places this year. I'm actually going to burn points because I am sick of having points, because there's places that are 1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
That I know that's where I want to be hunting and doing that. And I'm sitting on 15 points for no reason. So I'm just burning points this year just to get rid of a few.
That's how I am for Colorado elk. I'm like kind of in no man's land, and I'm like, there's a lot of units that I could draw with 2 or 3 points, and I could have done it 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's not like I've not been hunting elk, because I have been every year, but I'm same boat. I'm like, I need to just burn these so that I can turn them over. There's areas I want to go to.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think, I'm like, well, right now is not you think about it, you're like, oh, right now is not a great time to burn. There's a bad winter and populations might be down, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, perfect. Maybe I can just get into a unit easier with the points that I've got.
Exactly.
Cash in, go hunting. Because the only hunts that I'm actually ever disappointed on are ones that take a long time to draw, because it's never what you expect.
Never meet your. It's all about expectations.
Yeah, it's all about expectations.
I agree.
The best tags that I draw are generally the worst hunts of the season.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, pulling a 180-inch buck out of a hunt that took 2 points to draw is a wildly different experience than a hunt that took 10 points to draw and you killed the same buck.
Absolutely. Yeah,
because you hung the moon on one. The other one, you're like, damn it, didn't meet my expectations.
Yeah, and in that too, you like might find some deer that maybe it's not even the 180-inch buck, but you find a good buck and you had a good hunt and there's less pressure on it.
Yep.
And you get that draw tag and you pass up that buck that you're like, it was probably a good buck, but there's better. I have drawn a few good tags and I've never killed anything great on them.
I just don't like the idea that you do find a good deer and you end up killing it, you can't ever go back again.
Correct.
Or if I find one on a 2-point unit, I know like, oh, hey, I could be back here in a little bit.
Good.
Maybe I cracked the puzzle and I can repeat success twice.
Put that in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you kill a buck and then you find another buck with that buck and you're like, well, I'll be back to hunt that one. I've done that before.
But I've also done that where it's like a tough unit and I lucked into probably a really good buck on the first year and then I hunted it for 5 more years and never saw a deer.
Yeah, we've done that too.
That happens too, right?
You just duped every now and then.
Yeah,
that's the fun part about it.
But you're like, that one time was really good.
You're saying there's a chance.
Exactly.
What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, I feel like this year, I think even though I love mule deer hunting, I think I've got kind of a plan for some elk hunts this year.
Yeah.
In a way, like I'm actually going to be doing probably a lot of elk hunting this year because all I saw last year was good bulls. It was just like I was mule deer hunting and just freaking elk everywhere. There's more elk now than there has ever been.
Right.
And I think I need to help the mule deer population. No,
right.
Just kidding.
Let them be.
I really don't think that elk affect mule deer, but I think like unfortunately the landscape is more beneficial to elk currently. I think that we've lost a lot, like due to fires, wild horses, cheatgrass, and well, at least in Nevada, wild horses. invasive plant species, encroachment of certain invasive trees. Like mule deer habitat's been destroyed in a lot of ways, and elk habitat's flourishing right now.
Yeah.
Like we've hit a peak of elk habitat prime, I feel.
They're more of a generalist, right? They can get by on a lot of different species, whereas a mule deer is much more of a specialist. They've got to have certain things, and you're right. We had Brock McMullen, who's a BYU research professor, on 2 days ago at this point. I can't remember, but anyway, he kind of the same thing. You know, we've done so much work on winter range for mule deer, but that's only part of the component, right? Yeah. And they're looking at the importance of summer range to mule deer, and it looks to be like that's probably a huge. I mean, obviously, you'd think it was maybe 50-50. But more. Yeah, but maybe it's much more than we've ever thought before, you know? And wildfire suppression it's been terrible for mule deer.
Yeah.
Like, up top.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming out of big droughts. Like
sure.
It's like everybody remembers the big winter, but nobody remembers 5-10 years of drought.
Yeah, right.
And so you're like, it just all of a sudden goes away in your head. And we've had a lot of droughts. A lot of droughts led to a lot of fires. A lot of fires opened up and essentially gave a fire creates really good elk habitat and kind of hurts mule deer habitat in a certain way.
Depends on where it's at, I think. Yeah.
Depends on where it is. On the winter range, hurts mule deer.
For sure.
But it benefits elk. And then on the summer range, I also think it hurts mule deer and benefits elk. You know, but the nice thing, maybe not summer range, because summer range, like during the summer, mule deer actually eat more forbs than browse.
Yep.
That's the only kind of time that their diet increases in forbs. And so I guess on the summer range, fire in the summer range is okay for mule deer, because I've hunted some places that fire in the summer range and the mule deer have done really well. But yeah, fires and drought, mule deer aren't great on drought.
Man, they're bad. They're rough, huh?
You know?
Yeah, drought. Drought's
so
much gnarlier than I think on species. And it's like you're saying, everybody remembers winter kill. But if you get a winter kill on the back end of a drought or 2 years of drought, man, you're in for a perfect storm with just real shit conditions for mule deer.
For sure.
Which is what we've had. 16, 17. I mean, we had 2 real hard years of drought and then just winter.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe it is good that you're going to give them a break for a year or two.
Yeah. go shoot some elk. And you, that's like, watch what'll happen is I'll be like focusing. That's what I hate. I gotta stop like focusing on something, but it's kind of, I'm cashing in elk points essentially,
Gotcha.
And I'm going to have some good elk hunt or potentially good elk hunts. And then I'll see just giant mule deer everywhere. So
just put them in your back pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
For the future.
Yep. And then do the same thing next year. I'm going after those mule deer.
Yeah. All elk. Big elk everywhere now.
One of the biggest bucks I ever saw was on a elk hunt in New Mexico. And I had an elk tag in my pocket. The unit that I was hunting in was 100% draw archery. And this 190 inch, maybe 200, just standing there at 45 yards, just like, hey, what's up, man?
That thing was a tanker.
Never seen a person before. What are you doing? Just like hanging out. And I was thinking, man, I would give anything to downgrade this tag. I mean, to shoot, you know. But yeah, it does seem to go that way. It seems like if you're hunting elk, all you see is giant deer and vice versa.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. Do you have other questions?
No, I don't want to keep them too long.
Yeah, we've had you for over an hour, and I know you got another 8 hours of straight talking.
Yep.
So we'll maybe, hopefully, let you save a little bit of voice.
Perfect.
But we appreciate your time a ton.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's fun.
It's always great talking to you guys. It's good talking to guys that.
And I'm really glad that trail made us breakfast this morning.
So. Yeah, that was good breakfast.
Yeah, well,
good job, Dad.
It wasn't good.
It was better than the soggy muffin I had yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
Bacon and eggs and coffee. I mean, come on, I can't.
Better than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
You want to hit us with the promo code before we go?
Oh, why are we doing these promos at the end again, Trey? I remember first 10 minutes.
I like to bait people in, keep them listening.
Yeah.
There you go.
I want to reward the people that really are there for
you
us.
should, in the description, be like, Remi gives away his secret spot in the last 30 seconds of the
Yeah.
podcast.
Remi's
right
top mule deer spot.
Here's how you find my secret spot.
You use promo code podcast. Sign up for an insider
This
account.
is a guy that's done this before, I feel like.
Yep. Then we'll give you 50 points back in the GoHUNT Gear Shop, which is $50 to spend on some cool and awesome gear. And it's research season, so you need it.
That's right.
Use it. Find a hunt. Go hunting. Kill big animals. Just chase an adventure. Get that in your pocket.
Quick question.
Yeah.
$50. What piece of gear are you buying?
It's a great question.
$50. Can I spend a little bit extra than 50? Because the thing that I really loved this last year.
Brady's like, Paraswaro. The
Graxaw boot dryer.
I was thinking the same thing.
So it's a little bit more, but I use that a lot this last year, and it saved my bacon quite a bit having dry boots every single day. Especially putting them in a shelter.
Actually, just talking to you about it, and then I had a client show up with them this year, and so I just bought some the other day.
But I would instantly put them towards that. Like being able to put them in a charge brick, and that charge brick actually lasts a long time, and it pushes out a lot of air. But you combine that with the hot shelter, your boots are drying out every single night, and your insoles are then getting dry. That's a game changer.
Nice.
It's one of those simple things. Where back in the day, you're taking whatever newspaper on a hunt or whatever, shove it in there, trying to dry it, or pulling everything off, and every morning it's still wet. Your feet are not wet anymore. You don't want to get trench foot.
Right. I was on some wet hunts this last year, so that is now going to be a thing in my pack.
Yeah, it's just it's a little bit more than $50.
Yeah, good one.
You trail?
I'm buying arrows. I'm always buying arrows.
Yeah, that's
like I can't ever buy enough arrows. It feels
like you
like
miss all the time.
I mean, I just do a lot of tinkering, and then I do miss some. I'll forget to dial my sight at 100 and send one under or over or whatever, and it just seems like I always need arrows.
Yeah.
I shoot a lot of Robin Hoods. That's what it is.
I knew it. Yeah.
Like how I flip that.
Yeah.
Just from a negative to a positive.
Yeah. That's why I actually got to put my separate targets every time. I never shoot groups, because I'll just break too many arrows. Just always stack. The worst is when you get 4 or 5 arrows stacked into the back of each other,
Yeah, and
like, I'm not. Then your yardage too. The arrows get so close to you from hitting the Robin Hooding so many in a row. It's tough.
I'm not smart enough to do that. I start wadding them in there. I'm like, hell yes, let's put all 12 in that dot.
Look
how cool.
And then let's see how the broadhead flies on the last one. And
I think that's going to look so badass on the gram. Look at me. Yeah, which I never do. But anyway, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. We're out.